Recording has begun.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our meeting this evening. I would like to officially call it to order. Mr. Town Clerk, could you please do roll call?
Of course. Councilman Goldsmith. Here. Councilman Trollinger.
Present.
Mayor James.
Here.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward. Councilman Jenkins.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First item on our agenda is the approval of September's minutes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to withdraw the September 20th minutes. There are some complications with some of the verbiage, and we need to bring those back to you in November.
Thank you very much. So if council has had the opportunity to review the 13th of September and the 27th of September, I will entertain a motion to accept it as is.
Madam Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for September 13th and September 27th of 2022.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any disapproved? All right, the motion carries. Approval for October 18th and 20th for closed session meetings. Do I have someone to make the motion to approve as presented?
Madam Mayor, I recommend approval of the minutes for October 18th and 20th closed session minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. November, we have quite a few proclamations and recognitions for the month. The first one is First Responders Appreciation Day. Councilman Trollinger, could you read that proclamation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas both career and volunteer individuals from police, fire, emergency, medical services, search and rescue, and other organizations in the public safety sector come together as first responders to aid the public in the event of an emergency. And whereas every day first responders risk their own safety and personal property in the performance of their duties to protect our citizens. And whereas first responders are our first and best defense against all emergencies that may threaten our communities, whatever their nature. And whereas first responders are ready to aid the people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas first responders are highly trained, specialized workers who contribute their excellent skills for the public good. And whereas first responders are a vital part of every community who maintains safety and order in times of crisis and volunteer in our cities and schools. And whereas the families of first responders also make significant sacrifices to support their loved ones' service and live with the reality that their spouse, sibling, parent, or loved one may not return home from the job, and they deserve our appreciation and respect for bearing this burden. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do hereby proclaim October 28th, 2022 as First Responders Appreciation Day in the Town of La Plata. The Council encourages all citizens to join us in expressing gratitude for the significant work and sacrifices of our first responders and their families. Council of the Town of La Plata, Janine James, Mayor, James Goldsmith, Councilman, Matthew Trollinger, Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward, Councilwoman, David M. Jenkins, Councilman.
Thank you very much. And that is just around the corner. So that's very important. If we can all just pay a little bit more attention to our first responders and thank them for their sacrifice. Next is Municipal Government Works Month. Councilman Goldsmith?
Yes, the Town of La Plata Proclamation, Municipal Government Works Month, November 2022. Whereas the Town of La Plata was incorporated in 1888, and whereas Maryland is home to 157 municipalities, and whereas municipal government represents the most responsive level of government, allowing citizens to have direct access to elected officials, and whereas in an effort to educate citizens about municipal government and the importance of their participation, the Town of La Plata is proud to promote municipal government awareness, and whereas municipalities have enhanced the quality of life for their respective residents by maintaining natural and historic sites and structures and helping to make Maryland a great place to live, work, play, and explore. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do hereby join the Maryland Municipal League in proclaiming November as Municipal Government Works Month in the Town of La Plata, Maryland, and do commend this observance to all of our citizens. Council of the Town of La Plata, Janine James Mayor, James Goldsmith Councilman, Matt Trollinger Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward Councilwoman, David Jenkins Councilman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next proclamation is Operation Greenlight, which is November 7th through November 11th. Whereas the residents of the Town of La Plata have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all of the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces and maintained the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas the Town of La Plata seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, the American Red Cross, religious groups, civil services, and countless other volunteer organizations. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future, and whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active duty military service members transitioning from military service are at a higher risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the Town of La Plata appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do hereby encourage all citizens in the Town of La Plata to join the efforts of Operation Greenlight for the period of November 7th to 11th, 2022 by changing one light bulb in their home or business to a green bulb as a sign of support as military personnel transition back to civilian life upon completion of their service to our country. And it is signed by Mayor James, Councilman Goldsmith, Councilman Trollinger, Councilwoman Bryant Ward, and Councilman Jenkins. And I've got to say, on a personal level, I have seen this. We have 3 of our council members here that have retired, who have served and had gone into civilian life. And that can be very stressful. I have experienced that myself with my husband. So this Operation Greenlight, which the county will be participating in as well, and it's a nationwide initiative, is so important to let our service members know that there is life after military and that we support them 100%. So thank you, Councilman Goldsmith and Councilman Jenkins, and of course, Councilwoman Bryant Ward, for your service to our country. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
And then Small Business Saturday. Councilman Jenkins?
Thank you. Proclamation from the Town of La Plata Small Business Saturday, November 26, 2022. Whereas the Town of La Plata celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community. Whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report that the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year round or all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, cafe on Small Business Saturday, 2021. And whereas the town of La Plata supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday in the town of La Plata, Maryland, and do urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed by the Council of the Town of La Plata, Janine James, Mayor, James Goldsmith, Councilman, Matthew Trollinger, Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward, Councilwoman, and myself, David Jenkins, Councilman. And I would also add a personal note that I spent a year as a consultant for the Small Business Administration, primarily in Calvert County, but it was astounding the spirit and the even during COVID of these small businesses and how they serve their community. So it's a great
Thank you.
proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go to one of La Plata's Small Business Saturdays, this town is bustling on that Saturday. And although sometimes you can find different things on Amazon, I encourage everyone to come into the small businesses and look at their unique items that they have for sale and support. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your relatives, and they are what makes La Plata very unique. So shop small Saturdays, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Thank you very much for the reading of the proclamations. That brings us to our public comment. If there's anyone who would like to speak today, I ask that you state your name, whether you live within the incorporated town limits, and you could limit your talking points to 3 minutes. That would be appreciated. Do I have anybody that would like to speak, Mr. Clerk? Town Clerk?
Madam Mayor and Council, no one signed up in present or online has signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll go to our department head monthly reports. Chief, I hope you all have had the opportunity to look at the chief's reports. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
I had already provided a question about the that machine or the drug Turnark, and I think she's going to give us a little explanation of what that is.
Yeah, glad to. It is a spectroscope. So when an officer comes across any sort of substance that they suspect is a drug, they don't have to handle it whatsoever. They can take this TruNarc machine and like taking a photo of what's in the bag or whatever it is, and it has a library of over 500 different types of drugs. It can even do it with pills. So, and then it would give us the molecular makeup of the item and tell us what it is. It then, we take it, we download it, and it prints out a report for the state's attorney's office and for our internal records as to what it is. We still have to send it to the Maryland State Police for verification, but the accuracy rate, we're told, is about 99.9%.
That is great. And you have been wanting this for a while.
We have, and fortunately some ARPA money came up and we purchased it, and we really look at it as a safety thing for our people so they don't have to handle unknown substances.
And do we just have one
Yeah, they're about $15,000 a piece.
Okay,
So
we just have.
we have one. And it's housed at the station. Anybody can go pick it up, bring it out into the field, and then we take it back and download the results.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions for the chief?
Just a follow-up on that. So that would prevent, our officers getting in touch with fentanyl or anything kind of like that. That's kind of the main type of thing, that they don't have to put themselves in harm's way.
That's exactly right. And that fentanyl is exactly why we wanted this. We saw all over the country where officers were handling unknown substances and then having to have Narcan deployed on them to bring them out of the overdose.
Awesome.
Wow. Thank you, chief.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Director Harrington is up next. Do you have any questions for Director Harrington's planning department report? I'm gonna drill you today. I can see,
Good job as usual.
I can feel it. Yes, good job as usual. No questions?
I just, Madam Mayor, Dave Jenkins, Ward 4, I just, thank you for the report. So we're reapplying for the Sustainable Community Designation. So is the area going to change? I mean, I thought at one time it was amended once and it includes most of the town, or did I get that wrong?
So it was, when it was first applied for, it only encompassed the small area that was from Charles Street, North Maple Street, Washington Avenue to kind of Talbot Street extended.
Okay.
That was the original boundary. In 2017, it was extended to include most of the CB zoning in the downtown core. We, as part of the new work group, when we went through this, we are looking at expanding it even further to include the CBT and a few of the R3 residential neighborhoods right on the outside to allow us to get some money opportunities for funding to help improve those neighborhoods in those areas.
Thank you, because I understand this makes the town eligible for other grants from the Department of Economic
Community.
Development and DHCD. So yeah, that's terrific. And then the APFO, I know you're working on that and you're getting input from different sources and also from Mead Hunt, correct?
Correct. So I did the redraft it, looking at our school seat allocation policy and a few other things. I did send it to Mead and Hunt for traffic input. I sent it to Macron for water and sewer input. I did get their commentary back. I did send it to the Board of Education to get their input, and I will be reaching out to the county to kind of get their initial input. That way we're not surprising anyone. We're not getting any surprise comments when we come forward with this. And my goal is to take it to the Planning Commission for their December 6th meeting to start that initial discussion and review.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you for being so proactive. I know you have a lot on your plate, but this is very important, especially with all the new development that is occurring. So thank you for that. Any other questions?
If I may.
Challenger?
Thank you, Director Harrington. And again, thank you for anticipating some of the questions that usually come up with school allocations. In light of some of the kind of bubbling development issues, is there any update on the enclave issue or our major developments that were being planned at all from the state or anything like that?
For the hub in the Hawthorne Yards annexation. So I believe that is being worked on with the town attorney at the moment. They do need to amend the hub, will need to amend portions of their plan to make sure that everything fits the way that it's supposed to. And then they should be resubmitting soon to proceed forward with that review.
No dates yet on the horizon for anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe that they said in the next couple of weeks, we were hoping to get something back.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Director Harrington. I noticed Director Stahl is not here this evening with us.
Mayor James, I'm not sure. He may still be on the water main leak out on Crane Highway.
He had a bit of activity today.
It's about the fourth one in the last 2 weeks. Well, one was a sewer backup. Excuse me, 3 water, 1 sewer.
And the weather's not been that bad. It's not been freezing or anything.
No. So that is,
Well, a lot of I think the Crane Highway is due to the milling. The vibrations from the milling machine sometime can push a pipe over the edge that's close to failure. So I think that may have had something to do with it. There's been a lot of let me rephrase that. There hasn't been a lot of activity. There's been a lot of activity out there recently. I think they're trying to get ahead of the weather as far as trying to get the turn lanes paved to finalize that project. But a lot of times you will see when there is milling, the vibrations will cause problems to your utilities.
Well, if something like that, and that milling seems to be the primary culprit of it, do we have any capability of going back and say, hey, how about helping pay for some of this repair?
The rational nexus where we talk about it would be one thing to meet the standard of law. I don't know that we could.
We just talk about it.
Yes. We will fix it and keep moving. Yes.
Mr. Manuel, since you have brought up that subject of milling and asphalting, do we have any projected date? I've had several inquiries.
Yeah, I know Miss Minor, who I believe I can see out of the back of my head sitting in the back of the room. I believe she had some inquiries today as well from the public, and I'm not sure if they were social media oriented. But, you know, we don't like to just direct people to State Highway and say it's not our problem. We like to try to get something. And I think Ms. Minor may also be working with our PIO to try to get some sort of a statement out to update the public. Michelle, if you have anything you would like to add, you can definitely come forward and get on the hot mic.
I was gonna contact, State Highway so we could get a, like, Mr. Manuel said, we don't want to just say it's State Highway problem, we'll call them. I want to be able to try and give them an answer that it's gonna be March before they're finished, but
Well, you know, I understand the concerns of our citizens as they are in that lane. Someone in front of them can kick up rocks, and it's a concern. It may slow them down a little bit because no one wants their car chipped or a rock for their windshield, but I know we're at the mercy of the state, and so.
yeah.
And not to be in the state's defense, but they did start paving right when we had, what, 6 or 7 days consecutive rain.
And the area where the director saw was telling me the area where they're working today was paved last night.
Oh, interesting. So did they have to chop it up?
Yeah. And it was more extensive than what they anticipated. Apparently the water turnoffs are going down Chesapeake and starting to creep down 301, so.
Is there any questions that we have the two head people here that can answer on behalf of Mr. Stahl?
Madam Mayor, I do just have a
Thank you.
question. Yep. Thank you, and or I guess a comment. And I had sent this information and requested to Mr. Stahl. And I certainly understand honestly what we're in with these emergency repairs and, but I was just curious, do they have, and I'll hopefully get back to Mr. Stahl, but do they have some kind of a tickler system that says after X amount of weeks or months, we get back to a citizen who has an issue with their stormwater management or something, just to let them know, even if it's no news, that, hey, you know, we're aware of your situation and we're trying to schedule it because.
Yeah, and I think I've sort of expressed to the staff that if you do receive an inquiry from the public, I would like them to at least acknowledge receipt of that message before the close of business, the day that it's received, and provide a timeline and when you think you would be able to respond back to them. And I think, not to defend Bobby, but I think at the same time, his department we have hired a new administrative position there. So I think they are sort of figuring out whose responsibility is what. So I think you'll see a vast improvement in the communication out of that department here in the next few weeks.
Thank you. And this particular example was, there was a somewhat concerned citizen who sent a lengthy email about not hearing back in over a year about a particular issue. And Mr. Stahl did respond to me, and then I responded back to the citizen. But my point was that even if there's no news, perhaps just to say, hey, you know, we're trying to get it on the schedule, rather than waiting a year before we do anything. And I know that's hard because of the emergency situation and emergency repairs you have to do, but perhaps that could alleviate, but not totally resolve some anger or frustration with us, that's all.
Yeah, and I think that's, a goal of the staff is to improve our communication back and forth, because I think the dynamic in local government has changed. And just as we spoke to the fact that we don't want to say it's state highways problem, it's, just to pass the buck on, we want to be able to provide better communication. And, obviously we have a contract with a PIO, third party, so we don't want to drain them with the smallest of issues, but at the same time, I think that is something that we look to improve on daily and look for opportunities. And I think, Michelle, we're even looking at putting out some feel-good articles through our PIO, if you want to touch on that. So it's not always, oh, your water's going to be off and you're not going to be able to provide services to your customers for the next, try to get some, some equity with the positive equity with the residents, and sort of get them engaged on other matters that they may not be familiar.
We're calling it Positive Post, and our PIO is working with Chief Schinner, Director Harrington, Director Stahl about projects they have going on. We've got our the things that we've purchased through ARPA and things like that. So we're gonna try at least bi-weekly basis to get something positive out from each one of the departments. What's going on?
That's great, because again, it's a great to tell your story about all the things that you do collectively, the staff does, that folks may or may not know, and they only know about it when something goes wrong. But all the other positive things that goes on a daily basis is very beneficial to tell that story. Thank you.
I think if you don't tell your story, someone else will, and that may not always be the best
That is absolutely correct. Thank you.
situation.
I don't want to, belabor the point, but I think just having a periodic or like a biweekly reminder system on some of the things that have come up, we may not have answers for right away. And so it's kind of particularly relevant for something that we have going on in Agricopia right now with a developer, and it's been lingering for many, many months. And it seems as though we keep starting from scratch every time we go back to it, instead of, like Councilman Jenkins kind of alluded to, is like, okay, well, we're going to address this again in this period of time. And I don't know if Director Stahl probably has, with the way their system is set up, some kind of calendaring system or something, or maybe the new admin staff can assist with that. But I know in my practice, whether it's Outlook or the case management software that we use, we can just click a button, right? And that it'll recalendar that item for a period of time, and you can set up tasks such that each stage or whatever. I don't know if we have that ability or if that's something we can strive for. And I don't want to say as a resident complaint issue, but maybe the things that we can't address that are water main breaks that we have to drop and go to, but kind of our longer term projects. So I would just echo Councilman Jenkins on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Director Phipps, do we have any questions for Legislative Services, who have been very busy as well? Any questions? Coming.
I'm okay with the questions. I do have one answer for Councilman Jenkins. Councilman Jenkins had a question regarding signatures on legislation and whether or not council members are required to sign it. You are not. Especially if you are in objection to the legislation, you have the opportunity to not sign it. If it is adopted by the council, however, it's still adopted whether you sign it or not.
Well, that's a good point. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right?
I have a question. It's not in your report, but it's kind of a prelude to beautification later on. What is the Maryland Big Tree Program?
You've never heard of the Big Tree Program?
I have not.
There are champion trees in Maryland. It's actually a nationwide program, but there are champion trees, and they have an auditing group, an independent auditing group that goes out and measures trees at their circumference. I want to say it's at 5 feet high. It might be 4 feet high, but they have a whole calculation for that to identify the biggest and therefore oldest trees in Maryland. That gets recorded on a state level and also on the national level, so it goes into registries. And as it happens, we do have a couple of big trees, registered big trees in La Plata.
Sounds very important,
It does.
especially
It's
as a tree city.
It is, and I was so excited to find out that we did have those. And any citizen can do this if they feel like they have a big enough tree for that. So it's totally voluntary. It doesn't cost anything.
In fact, I have a neighbor down the street who did that.
It may be your neighbor we're talking about.
It probably is, because he asked me to mention it tonight.
So how can they find out more information
Right.
as to register or see if they qualify for that program?
I couldn't tell you the link immediately offhand, but I'm pretty sure we have it on the Keep a Plate of Beautiful webpage. And it's the Maryland Big Tree Program. That's literally the name of the program. So if you Google that, you should get you there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do
And-
those trees become protected? Are those trees protected once they're identified as?
They do
Orange.
not.
Okay.
It doesn't offer any additional tax credits. It's really just more the street cred of having a champion tree on your property.
That's exciting though.
I'm told this because he pointed it out to me when I was walking the dog last week. They came out and looked at it. Apparently this tree could be at least 100 and something years old.
Is it in his backyard?
It's in his backyard.
Oh, we'll be talking about that later.
Is that a southern red oak perchance?
It might be, yes. It is huge. And
That's
I
awesome.
never would have known about it until he pointed it out to me. It is
That's
a
awesome.
beautiful tree.
What that is, it's great and it,
That's another good,
line with the Tree City.
and that's another good story to tell.
It is, it's fantastic.
I didn't even know about that program, so thank you for asking, Councilman Trolinger, and thank you for knowing, Director Fisher.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much. That'll bring us down to legislation. We have ordinance 22-17, Town Council Procedure Code revisions.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Town Council, for your consideration, an ordinance concerning Town Council Procedures Code revision for the purpose of amending Chapter 13, Council, to revise language pertaining to the order of business outlined in Section 13-7.
Do I have someone who would like to make a motion to accept ordinance 22-17 as presented?
Mayor, I would make a motion to accept Council Resolution 22, Town Ordinance 2022-17, Town Council Procedures Code Revision.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us down to new business, our council reports. Councilman Goldsmith?
Yes, the Historical Preservation Commission will actually have a special meeting this coming Thursday. And I guess the pressing issue has come up as such. And you don't have it on here, but do you want to report on the Design Review Board too? Design Review Board? Are you-
Okay, please do design review board as well.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to actually make the meeting, but I printed out everything and I double checked the information. It wasn't overly bad that the presentation about the Firehouse Museum, repainting it. We had a chance to see that ourselves previously. Additionally, the Popeyes is changing their color scheme as far as the franchise is concerned. And therefore is orange and teal, orange for the doors, teal for the shutters, and that was approved as well. And then the Rosary Cross Corner sign plan was brought forth and that was approved as well.
Great, and I understand coming up might be the library again. Are they coming back to design review board, Director Harrington?
That might be part of the meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
That's-
Library coming to DRB again? Okay, I thought I saw something on your report for November 9th.
They were fine.
Okay,
I
okay.
haven't received anything.
Okay, so I wasn't going crazy on that. All right, thank you, Councilman Goldsmith. Councilman Trolinger.
Yes. Yes. So, we had a meeting October 21st, 2022. I wanted to give a special shout out to Miss Rose Goldsmith. I think some people here know her very well. Did a great job on the scarecrow out front, as always. But I did want to bring up something that the Beautification Commission was definitely concerned about, which is our request of apparently a neighbor of Councilman Jenkins, somebody in his ward, for repair of a, what do we call it, a southern red oak. We've got a beautification grant application from William and Catherine Flowers for treatment of their southern red oak located on their property. The estimate was in the amount of $500. There was some concern during the meeting about potentially having an issue of public funds for private purpose. However, the resolution of the committee was that, look, we've got a town's Tree City USA status, and perhaps we could look at splitting the costs of the repair and coming back with $250 to support the residents to preserve the history and the legacy of this tree. And we're united in that, in that partnership as a town. So I did want to present this to the town council tonight as a priority from the beautification committee. I think maybe Councilman Jenkins may be able to, I haven't seen the tree myself, but if you've seen it, you've told us it could be 100+ years old. It's a beautiful tree. Anything else you want to add to the history of the tree or what you could see?
He only verbally told me that it was some organization that came out and inspected it and thought it was in pretty good shape. They had some recommendations to try to maintain it. It is in his right rear of his yard. You can see it from the street. And he was curious today when I saw him about not having heard back yet from the beautification committee. So that's why I waited until you were going to talk about it. So that's some of the background that I know.
So we do have, and I can supply this to town council, we do have, as part of our meeting, we have the Maryland Big Tree Program official record of the Southern Red Oak. When the Maryland Department of Natural Resources came out, it's got the measurements, the circumference of 19 feet, it's 104 feet high. Apparently it's 355 points in their point allocation system. But, oh, there it is. It's a very large tree. It's about 100 feet from the house, and it looks like it's been there for quite a bit of time. And maybe if we do give the residents some help with this, we can use this as part of our goodwill in the future here, as far as talking about residents with some and how they work with us in the Tree City USA program. Any thoughts from council on supporting them with a $250 ask?
Not sure what repairs are needed. Trees do pretty good growing on their own.
They do. So let me pull that up for you. I don't think it's a growth. I don't think they're looking for it to grow more. As far that, I'm not an arbor guy, arborist, but they've got a Boost liquid treatment here. They had Bartlett tree experts come out. They recommended $500 of repairs, which included Boost liquid treatment, $600 for the year. I guess they worked it down to $500. It says 4 treatments, $200 a visit. We don't want to get into too much of the weeds here, but it's recommended to suppress development of pest or disease.
I did notice he says 100 feet from the house and the tree's 105 feet.
It's pretty tall.
Yeah, it could hit the house.
Easily, yeah.
So my question to you is,
Sure.
does Keep La Plata Beautiful have any type of funding?
So, Ms. Phipps, do you know what the status of our current budget is as far as, you can hear me, as far as what we may have that could go towards it? I don't know that we have this for that.
We haven't
function.
allocated anything to this specifically, but we do have $5,000 allocated to our tree advisory group from ARPA funds. And that would be in addition to the beautification grant.
So that might be the way to go, that the committee recommends that, and it doesn't need council approval since the funding is already there. Does that sound?
I will check into that process. The Beautification Commission is the one who administers this particular grant, so that's who's being asked for the $250. Keep La Plata Beautiful has not been asked for money.
And Mr. Manuel, do you have anything to add to that?
It's the money of the council. If you want to say, you know, I won't say you can, you can directly, you know, grant the $250 request, but I think, you know, we administratively, we can figure out what we need to do to get that money.
But if there's already some type of funding in the commission or the committee,
So I think, so we have a little bit of a disconnect. So it's the Keep La Plata Beautiful, not the beautification committee that has the ARPA funding. Is that?
Keep La Plata Beautiful has the ARPA funding, yes. The Beautification Commission has grant funding. This is the beautification grant that the application that was submitted is through the Beautification Commission.
and they have funding available right now.
They do.
Okay, so they would not need a council approval if the beautification if they want to allocate a grant towards them.
They were requesting town council approval because of the involvement of expending public funds on private property. The tree is solely on private property. It is not in a common area or on public property.
So it would not qualify for a grant.
Not strictly speaking, but in the interest of supporting the Tree City USA initiative, the council could find that it does.
Could we get a little bit more information on that? Because I would love to keep it in the beautification if it does fall under the public interest because we are a tree city. And that way it keeps it, you know, with the committees where it should belong. If not, can we bring it, once we have all the information, bring it back to us and see if there's interest in approving that fund, because it is a slippery slope.
Of course, Madam Mayor, we can bring any information you like. What kind would you like?
Just making sure, I guess, qualifying that the committee cannot give that money out and we have to allocate it. And that, to me, is a little bit scary because that opens up a whole can of worms on that. And I want to make sure that we're fair and equal to everyone. So if the funding is there, if we can make it that the grant if it falls under the grant purview, even though it's in a backyard, but it's supporting Tree City, I guess I need a little bit more clarification. I just don't want the council to start approving things and then have a lot of trees come up with
Yes.
a lot of funding.
That was exactly the precedent we were concerned about.
Yep, that's what I'm concerned about.
Understood. So perhaps after we can talk about, so is there a specific barrier that the council does not have as it relates to the barrier that the committee has?
Not that I'm aware of. We're all held to the same ethical standards.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I love the idea and I would love to support it, but I have to make sure that we're fair across the board for everybody or anyone who comes in. Because then we're a bird city and then you open the door for birds supporting something in someone's backyard for birds. And that's where my mind goes. So if we can find something that is concrete and to do that, we'd love to do that, or make sure that it falls clearly underneath the grant process.
The beautification grants, we've actually given that to private individuals as well, to other businesses and such. So it has gone private.
We could grant grants to private entities. The problem in this particular application was that this project is on private property. So if a private entity wanted to perform some beautification project on public property, not an issue. Once it becomes private property, then
Oh, we give the grant to a business, that's on private property. This is a precedent. Let's put it that way. I'm just saying.
Yes, well, and that's in the precedence is where we're concerned.
And does that tree, I mean, could it become part of our tree canopy and incorporate as part of La Plata? So, I mean, there's so many things we can go further on because we can claim, will they sign over the tree to us? Do we want the tree?
Oh,
Does it become part of?
now we're on easements
Yeah.
and
I
legalities.
know, there's so.
We'll talk. We said we
But I
would.
think that we need some more information clarifications, just to make sure that we're fair across the board to anyone and everyone who might inquire about this.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for that question, Councilman Trolinger.
Always hoping to lively it up with easements and eminent
Yes,
domain
you
and everything.
did, you did.
Over tree, yeah.
All right, Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dave Jenkins, Ward 4, Parks and Recreation Commission. I believe I did give a report last month on our September 14th meeting. Our next meeting is November the 14th. And also that's the next meeting of the county task force that's looking at the 3 parks, including the La Plata, they're calling it La Plata Farm, which is adjacent to Wills Park. That's their next meeting. Ms. Phipps and I are on that task force. And if I could, we have a application for a new member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, Hannah Hawkins, who is a Clarks Run resident. She's I know her. She's very active in Clarks Run and sponsoring events, and also in open space events and things. And she has a previous experience. She worked on Capitol Hill as a liaison or a legislative assistant to a member of Congress. So I would put forward to nominate her to be on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Our chairperson, Vicky Kelly, she concurs with that. She couldn't be here tonight. So I would offer that as a nomination for the committee.
And if I could ask a question, what position would she be filling and when is her term? Would it be a new member? Would it be an alternate?
It's filling in as a new member.
Okay, and would Director Phipps know when that would expire?
I should know that, but I don't.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think Michelle, actually, Miss Minor, excuse me, she staffs Parks and Rec. So Miss Minor, do you know whose seat they are replacing?
She will be replacing Aaron Farrader's position, and I believe it's for a 3-year term, but I would have to verify that.
Okay. All right, so Councilman Jenkins has made a request for a nomination for
Hannah Hawkins.
Hannah Hawkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
She's anxious to start.
Good. Thank you for recruiting someone. I
Well,
appreciate it.
Ms. Minor was very helpful, and Vicky, so
Wonderful.
Vicky Kelly, so.
Um,
And then I just have one other quick update on the La Plata Town Corporation. Unfortunately, through my own fault, we have not met because I've been somewhat remiss in figuring out what direction we want to go in and frankly, what they want to go in. But I did take the occasion to send them an email on October the 16th, where I provided the slides from our transportation consultant, Meet Hunt, of all the updates of all the transportation projects at our joint planning commission town council meeting. I think it was October the 4th, because they had expressed some interest in Charles Street and other projects. So I sent that to them with those attachments, and as of tonight, I have not heard back from any of them yet so far. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, thank you. I have heard some buzzing around, especially after the state granted us almost $11.4 million for the improvements on Charles Street from 301 to Willow. So I think that might invigorate the group again, and they may be changing, expanding their purview and including Charles Street instead of just that block. But thank you for doing that and being proactive.
And then, thanks to Mr. Manuel and Ms. Minor, we're receiving the bank statement, and so they have, give or take, $18,000 in Wells Fargo. So we get those statements. In fact, I have them as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Upcoming events. Well, just one I wanted to talk about. Over the weekend, I had the great privilege of going over to Steeplechase for their fall festival, and it was really nice. They had a couple food trucks there. They had pizza, they had hot dogs, they had games, they had a bake contest there, and they had their vendors, that residents who have their own type of it, whether it was 31 or Avon or whatever, they were out there as well. So their businesses. So that was really lovely. And I was honored to be their judge. It's very stressful to be judging all of these great foods, and you have to pick a winner. So I'm hoping that the other ones were not losers. They just came in second. Upcoming is the Trick or Treat Trail at Town Hall on the Saturday. It's from 12 to 3. Of course, the Veterans Day Parade is on Sunday, November 6th at Step Off is at 1 p.m. Council will be there by 12:25 p.m. It says 12:30, padded a little bit. The Chamber of Commerce's second annual First Responder Appreciation Dinner will be on November 10th, and I find that very timely since on October 28th is First Responders Day that we just proclaimed. And then a little plug for Port Tobacco Players. They are having their annual holiday production. It is Hello Dolly. What night are you going? Because I always sit behind you, Councilman Goldsmith. It starts on November 25th and it will go through December 18th. So make sure that you get your tickets and support our small businesses. With that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I moved to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Great meeting, everyone. Have a good night.
Just in case, I brought an extra pen with me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.